You're listening to the Scaling Wellness Podcast, the podcast dedicated to sharing the what, why, and how of scaling your wellness practice, as well as sharing inspiring stories of how others did it themselves. I'm your host, DJ Turner, author, agency owner, houseplant lover, and your go-to guy for scaling your wellness practice. If you're looking for tips on how to grow your team, book more clients, and get out of the day-to-day in your practice, you've come to the right place. Now sit back, relax, and let's get into the episode. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Scaling Wellness Podcast. Today's episode, I'm sitting down with Dr. Shara Posner, the proud owner and founder of Back to Health Center, a state-of-the-art healthcare center located in Alexandria, Virginia. So first, we're going to get into this episode, but I'm really excited to have more other wellness practitioners on the show. You're going to start seeing, if you're a long-time listener, you're going to start seeing more doctors, more chiropractors, more people beyond just the world of massage, but also kind of sticking a little bit more in this idea of body work and what are some of the things that we can do in the wellness industry. So I'm really excited to have this episode, and I think regardless of what kind of wellness practitioner you are, you're going to learn a lot. So let me tell you more about Dr. Shara business. So this center that she's built specializes in providing comprehensive chiropractic treatments and therapies to help their clients and patients feel better and improve their overall health and wellness. And so this includes chiropractic care, acupuncture, massage, and stretch therapy. And with experienced doctors and practitioners on staff, her center is able just to provide a very high level of care for the patients. I mean, you can see it come through. So with the work that she's put into the business, the team that she has hired, they have earned so many awards, including Best in Patient Satisfaction, also Best of Alexandria, Top Chiropractor of Northern Virginia, and Chiropractor of Alexandria multiple times. And this just shows what high-level service that she and her team are able to offer to their clients and patients. So this is a really cool episode. We talk about what is her background in starting this business, and then some really important things of like how to set boundaries and what that looks like with your team, with your clients. How can you make sure you stop micromanaging so that your team is happy and you are happier? How can we make sure that you're prioritizing everyone's needs? We've got your own needs, your business's needs, your therapist's needs, and the clients and patients' needs. How are we making sure that we're prioritizing those and taking care of them accordingly? We talk about how Dr. Shara structures her time to make sure she is most efficient and effective, and in general, just some advice for building a successful, scalable, and sustainable wellness practice, regardless of the modality, regardless of what type it is. So this is a really fun conversation. I think you're going to learn a lot. So here's my interview with Dr. Shara. So, Dr. Posner, I'm really excited to get into this conversation. Thank you so much, really, for being here today. One of the first things I always like to do is give some context for our listeners. So, when it comes to your practice, Back to Health Center, can you just describe it as this today, the team, the space, what you guys offer, and just what you're all about?
So Back to Health Center kind of was a bit of a brainchild. I think that when I was in chiropractic school and I was learning how to do chiropractic, I realized that chiropractic is not the end all be all for everything. So like the brainchild was to at some point have a center where we had multiple modalities, because perhaps maybe somebody's not interested in chiropractic, but I still want to help people. So maybe they prefer to use a modality such as massage for healing or acupuncture for healing. So we can capture a larger population, help all these people, but maybe in a modality that they feel more comfortable being helped with. So that's kind of how I started on Back to Health. I started originally just myself as a solo practitioner. And as I started to expand and grow, I started to add on additional modalities, starting off with the massage and the acupuncture. And now we offer specific types of massage and other like chiropractic modalities that assist people in, alleviation of their complaints and just, better well-being. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And so I'm curious, if we look back and we think about like those maybe late middle school, early high school, teenage years, I'm just curious, just who were you at that time? What were you interested around then?
Well, I was an athlete, so I played a sport in every season. And I had been to PT. I had several injuries when I was in high school. I broke my nose twice. I broke 5 fingers and a big toe. I had osteoarthritis, which is a condition of your knees where you have like a little bit of growing pains in your knees and there's inflammation where like the muscles insert being worked so much that they're actually creating micro tears from the joint. long story short. Anyways, so I had been going to a PT and I was like, wow, this is really cool. I find that a lot of student athletes, they get into PT, they get into chiropractic, they get into athletic training because the trainer that they had at school was so helpful and they really enjoyed being active and playing sports. So that's kind of how I fell into it. I was playing softball, basketball, I was swimming, I played a season of field hockey. So there were a lot of injuries and a lot of visits to the PT.
And so I guess what was that point where you realized, okay, this is something that you want to go into? You want to go into wellness, you want to go into chiropractic for yourself?
Well, I mean, as an athlete, you kind of like play through the pain. And then at the end of the season, you're like, wow, I really messed myself up. I had a sports physician, like a sports orthopedist. I was just so fantastic because he would immediately, like, I would go to him and he'd be like, yeah, you can go ahead and start playing again in 2 weeks. And I just thought, wow, that's so cool because the last thing an athlete wants to be told is that they can't play their game. So a lot of times we won't approach our coach or system saying, hey, I have an injury. I really need to take a break or I really need to take some time off because I need to heal from that injury. So we play through that injury and we make it worse. And then the sport our game starts to get affected. When I had a physician who was working with me who was like, no, you're good. And he kept putting me out there. I was like, oh, this is great. And I don't know if it was like a good thing or a bad thing at the time because maybe he put me in too early, but I was like, this is definitely what I want to do. I want to be able to help people stay active. And I want to be able to make sure that people can still play and love the game and not their injury doesn't affect them or prevent them from playing.
So it's really easy, I think, to look at today. You've got multiple modalities in-house, over 8 people on staff. You've been in business for over 15 years. I'm curious, when we go back in time and look at that first year of business, what was that like?
Right. So when I graduated chiropractic school, I had a couple offers to work in the field for other physicians. And I originally went to practice at a very large practice in this area. And I just, I was working so hard. I mean, I was staying long hours at the gym and recruiting patients. And I was just working really hard. And I just thought to myself, well, this is a lot of work. And although I'm learning some very interesting marketing techniques and the way to drive patients into the office, I'm going to do this for myself. This is too much. If I'm going to work this hard for somebody else and make them, I guess, profit, then I'm going to do it for myself. At the time, I was kind of investigating and I was like, do I start my own practice? I had a little bit of a non-compete with this current practice that I was at. So I knew I needed to get out of the area. And so what I ended up doing was there was this very small practice for sale in Alexandria. And when you buy a practice, you're buying essentially, their equipment, but how much equipment do they have depending on how big is the practice? And then you're buying essentially goodwill because you're buying their patient roster, but there's nothing to say that you're not going to have attrition because you're a different practitioner, right? So I found this little small practice and I purchased it from this gentleman who was moving to Connecticut with his family. And that's kind of how my first year of practice was. So I stepped into this practice, I was working with a ton of patients who, frankly, I had a ton of attrition because he was a male doctor and I was a female doctor. So some of the women patients left the practice. And then some people were just like, I don't want to work with a female because females are not as good at adjusting as men are. I feel it's a bit of a misnomer because we can't use our strength, right? So if you're a female chiropractor, you're either very tactically good, you're professionally very good, or you use some lighter force techniques, which get you by. I'm a manual doctor and I think I'm pretty good at it. So the practice continued on and I just started growing the practice. And that first year I was playing let's make a deal chiropractic. I was like, oh, you want to come in for $5. It's cool. You want to do a monthly program? Come in as much as you want. Here's a membership. Just come. I just need patients. Because, when you're in chiropractic school, they're teaching you, oh, it's about the numbers. When you're in your clinics, you have to do 100 examinations or 100 adjustments. And so it's all about the numbers, getting people in, numbers. On the business aspect, you want to help people, right? Because that's why you get in this profession. You want to help people. You want to work out their muscle mass. You want to let them be able to perform in their activities of daily living without discomfort and healthy, give them the road to wellness. But at the same time, you're also running a business. And so numbers don't always equate to cash flow. So my first year was, let's make a deal chiropractic. Just get them in. And I'm working my butt off. I'm not married at the time. I was dating my husband. He had moved into the area followed me down here. I had no children. So my work was my life. I was working 6 days a week. I was working like an animal. And then I kind of just said, what am I doing here? This is crazy. I'm seeing a ton of patients and I'm working so hard and I'm giving people access to me all the time, like I walked around with a pager for God's sake. So if a patient couldn't come in, they would page me on a Saturday or a Sunday and they'd be like, hey, I need to see you. And I'm like, yeah, let me just run over there with my portable table and I'll take care of you. Like, yeah. So at one point I just said, okay, this is just insane. So now years down the line, you kind of recognize and you start to really kind of focus a little bit more on your work-life balance, and you start creating those boundaries, and you also start realizing that, like, for me, I feel like my gift of health has value. It has worth. I went to school for a very long time to be able to learn to do what I do, and that schooling and that training and that curating of my expertise has worth. And so I don't play let's make a deal chiropractic anymore. I set my costs, I set my fees. And if you don't want to pay them, then you are more than welcome to go somewhere else. Once you make that clear, definitive decision that you're worth, that you have value, and that you're not going to compromise your value because you just want to help everybody, it's a game changer.
Now, when you think about from that first year to where things are now, can you just talk us through some of the major turning points or milestones, like when you hired on, maybe moved buildings, just what were those big key points in your journey?
So I think the big key points in the journey of like growing this, there's two things that I would say probably are the most difficult. Number one is staffing. Staffing is very difficult. It's very difficult to find somebody who vests in your dream the way that you vest, in the sense that like they have desire to see you succeed. So finding a way that people buy into your culture and your excitement about your profession and what motivates them to do that for you and with you is very challenging. So staffing in general can sometimes be a huge road bump. If you have somebody at your front desk who's answering your phones and they're not smiling before they pick up the phone, people are like, wow, that front desk person was really rude. And they're the first person that your prospective client meets. So if you don't have good staff who's happy to be there, who's vested in your culture, that sometimes can cause your business to decline. And it has nothing to do with you. I mean, it does because you've hired the wrong staff, but has nothing to do with you. And it's sometimes stuff that you may not even have control over. There are certain people who fit specific professions and there are other people who don't. Just because somebody is not good at your front desk doesn't mean that they're not good for another job. And frankly, if they're not doing the job that you want at your front desk, they're probably not happy anyways. So like having the conversation with your skill set is really great for somewhere else, but just not here, because you genuinely don't have a happy affect and patients are complaining about your demeanor, And then I think the other road bump is I have had several moves for my office and, negotiating contracts, office design, cash flow as a result of that is also a little bit challenging. So, I'm a big proponent, I should say, as I have grown in my industry or as I've grown in my business and I've employed more people and the business is larger, I have really begun to accept the fact that like I cannot micromanage. There are people out there that do what they do. And so you need to find people that are experienced in whatever facet that you need. So for example, finding somebody who's a great commercial real estate agent who can help you negotiate the contracts that you need. Finding a team of people who do office design work for you, who can offer you solutions to storage, lighting, all of the things. So with growth, there's more overhead through staffing, through changing of offices, through just the bigger you are, the more, things you need. So like, phone systems and more staff and being able to keep an eye on your P&Ls, I think is very important. So I would say the hiccups in growth would be staffing and managing moves or transitions. If you're growing, your office size is actually growing, you need bigger space. Because I do believe sometimes, like if you're in a small space, there's a glass ceiling that you hit. if the space is not in a way where it can accommodate your growth, people they don't like to walk into the office and see 95 people standing in your waiting room. If you have an office that's big enough where you have multiple practitioners and then all the seats are taken in the waiting room, those people are thinking, wow, this is a really busy office. I'm not going to tell a friend about this place. You need to make sure that your office space is growing in a way and that you employ staff that can help you process and move these people through the office in a way that just create for a general good customer service oriented feeling. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could go on and on and on about some of the things that I've noticed that have changed in my practice, but I think watching as you grow, like I said, it's more kind of overhead P&Ls, figuring out where you're kind of leaking money, and then staffing, really getting a grip on your staffing. Staffing is very challenging.
So in that same vein of staffing, obviously you're at a point now, you've got other people on the team, you've got different practitioners. I love getting into what people's teams look like because I think it gives a snapshot for people as they're in that process of growing, what things they might be looking for, what kind of positions they might want to hire. So can you just describe the structure of your team in terms of what the practitioners are like, any sort of administration, and then if there's any management or leadership positions?
Right. So I actually have been told on multiple occasions by fellow mentors and friends that I keep my staff very lean. And I would say almost sometimes it's a little too lean. But I have an office manager and she is in charge of correspondence between our offsite billing. We have offsite billing for the chiropractic because we do accept insurance for chiropractic. She also coordinates bills for patients, does all the back structure in terms of marketing, setting up people's accounts, making sure that they process the way they should be processed and all that kind of stuff. She manages another part-time front receptionist. The other part-time front receptionist is going to be stepping up and she's going to be starting to do some more physical therapy modality implementation for patients. She's actually in school to become a nurse. So that will be really helpful. I suspect that we're probably going to have to organize to get another part-time receptionist up front because as this part-time receptionist steps more into the back end of the office where she's implementing therapy, we still need somebody at the front desk. I have another chiropractor who helps manage my schedule. I've had another associate who left last year. She'd been with me for quite some time. She's fantastic. At some point, a bird's got to grow their wings, right, and fly. And I think that's exactly what happened. And so for a while, I was standing on principle of, no, I can do this by myself. No, I want to kind of contract before I expand again. And it just got too overwhelming and patients were having a very hard time getting in with me and I was extending my hours and that's the opposite of what I want to do at this age and with my family. So I hired another associate and she's fantastic and she helps to alleviate some of the patient flow off me. When we get new patients in the office and they can't fit on my schedule, we don't have to defer them several weeks to get in and they can go see her. And then she ends up normally doing their entire treatment plan. On occasion, we share patients where the patient is I don't care who I see, just as long as I see somebody at your office because you guys are both fantastic. So that's great. And then I have it set up so that all the other contractors in the office are exactly that, contractors. I have found in my experience that, again, it is very difficult to motivate people if they're not working for themselves. And that maybe that's some of my personal belief systems that I'm pushing on other people. But we have 3 massage therapists at this point. We have Shay, Sandra, and Andrew. They all have different areas of specialty. For example, Andrew does TMJ massage and he specializes in more of a trigger point myofascial release massage. We have Sandra who does craniosacral therapy as well as Reiki, and she gives a very great kind of mid-range deep tissue massage. So I would say it's firmer than a Swedish, but not super, super deep. So she's very good for our more sensitive patients. And then we have Shay who does post-operative massage, either post-operative cosmetic or post-operative injury, back surgery, stuff like that. And then she does prenatal as well as deep tissue, very assertive deep tissue. And then there's Dr. Jenny, who's the acupuncturist. And so they're all set up as independent contractors. So you have to be very careful when you walk the line as a business owner with contractors in most states. Contractors are their own businesses. So you work out however you want to pay them for their services. And so either they pay you for the square footage of the room or they pay you a percentage of the business that they generate in the office. It really depends on how you work it out with them. You clearly can't give them much more than that. They are free to, I say, here's a room that's available for you. These are the days that the rooms are available. You come when? You tell me. So they are the masters of their own schedule. And we have software that we use for the chiropractic services, and we have put them on that software because it's our practice management software. So they can do all their soap notes and get all their schedules, and we will process charges and fees at the front desk. But there is times where they're in the office, like on a Saturday or Sunday, and my front desk staff is not there, so they manage their own schedules and they take all their own payments. I have found that this works out best for me. So they all have business licenses within our city, and they all register their businesses in our office. So essentially the way that I've set up the offices is that the only employees, direct employees that I have are my 2 front desk staff as well as my associate. And then everybody else is an independent contractor that works under the auspice of the health center.
We'll be back with this episode in just a moment. But first, let me ask you a question. Does it ever feel like you're stuck on some sort of business treadmill? Despite all the hard work you put in, it feels like you aren't actually going anywhere. And at first, growing your practice and filling it with clients was everything you ever dreamed of. But now, the day-to-day of your business is starting to almost feel like a never-ending nightmare. You know you love your clients, you maybe even built a team, and you can't imagine giving any of it up, yet at the same time, you feel like you just can't seem to escape. If that sounds like you, I want to offer you an alternative. I like to call it Wellness Practice Freedom. It's a place where your practice gives you more than just money. When you get to this point, you're no longer the main engine in the vehicle, and instead, you finally get to act like the driver. And most importantly, you'll be in a place where you can work as little or as much as you'd like, because you know that your practice is built in a way that it can thrive without you. Sound interesting? Then I want to invite you to take the journey to achieving wellness practice freedom. During this call, we'll dive into exactly what freedom looks like for you, the changes that you need to take, and what's going to allow you to step back from your business without worrying about your income or everything falling apart. Ready to get started? Then head over to my calendar at www.scalingwellness.com/chat. Again, that's www.scalingwellness.com/chat. Now, let's get back to the episode.
And so I'm curious because, we see this pretty commonly when you've got a team. There's one route, okay, everyone's an employee. The other route where you have almost everyone is an independent contractor. It's pretty common. In both scenarios, you have a lot of people under one roof, and depending on exactly what's going on, it's either kind of someone operating under one name, sometimes not with the independent contractors. What's your approach to creating this team culture? Because in either case, you've got everyone occupying the same physical space, and I assume there are, patients kind of passed around as necessary for people who are looking for achieve their wellness goals.
Well, so that's the thing is we, including the front desk reception, we've all tried each other's services. So that, for me, it's very important that I know what your touch and your feel feels like, and what kind of service you provide. So when I do the interviews to bring somebody into the office, like I want somebody who's going to be at a caliber for, these are my patients. I hate to sound condescending or trite, but they're my babies. My patients are very important to me. They're like the most important thing to me next to my family in my life here, right? And so I need to know and have confidence that people that I'm referring them to are going to help them and do the job. So I think a lot of that is pervade when I have conversations with my therapist, like, you are of value to me, you're fantastic, I use their services, and I refer patients to them with confidence because I know that they're going to take care of them. And they're going to take care of them as good as I would, if not better, because obviously they specialize in their field. And so I think that creates a lot of camaraderie, because it's one thing to have just kind of like a very superficial relationship, and it's another thing to be like, hey, I want you to see this person because they are so fantastic. And then the person comes out after their massage or their acupuncture session, they're like, you know what, Dr. Shara, and they're right in front of my staff, they'll say, you were so right. I needed that. That was such a great session, or that was so helpful. And so it gives that mutual respect and that mutual genuine want for others to succeed, I believe fosters an environment where we are all working in this plan for wellness for this specific person together. That being said, on the back end, the computer system has SOAP note documentation in it. So like if I make a referral to somebody within practice or within the center, the person who's working on that patient is privy to every single document, every single note, all of their intake forms, anything that they've ever presented with in the office is documented within the patient's file. So I can read Andrew's notes for massage on a client that we share. And so I see, okay, well, he's doing a TMJ massage to this patient. Maybe they never talked to me about their TMJ. And I'm like, so the next time they come in, I say to the patient, hey, I saw that you just got a TMJ massage from Andrew. Like, what's going on with your jaw? Maybe we should take a look at that too. Maybe we should give you more holistic care. You should be getting many avenues of touch point within the office. It's not just about releasing the muscles. Maybe the joint is getting jammed. Maybe your disc is getting lodged in your jaw and we need to work that out. So that's really nice because you can see what other people are doing and how they're providing. And it's much easier for us to communicate on the back end without really communicating verbally. You can see, okay, and I can leave notes in the system like, hey, for this patient, because they're looking for this kind of therapy, or this area is the area that I have found that's of trouble. Tell me what you think. So that's kind of, I feel like, the vibe. I have to admit, I'm not one of those like .comer type people. My work time is my work time and my home time is my home time. And I have certainly been criticized in the past over my inability to like get a whole bunch of people together. And that sometimes I kind of command with like a kind of cold, more methodical process where I come to the office and I'm like, okay, let's do this and let's do that. But I don't really do that .com kind of stuff where it's like, oh, let's do a Christmas party. I've tried that in the past. It's just really hard to like herd cats. So, everybody has their own schedule. Everybody has their own life. And I'm like, hey, on Friday, blah, 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 blah. And then I would get like 2 or 3 people to show up, which is nice, but you ultimately want all the people. So I do think that I could probably work on that a little bit more where I'm doing more than just saying like, happy birthday to people or like texting them, the staff that works, in the office and saying happy birthday. Whereas we could probably do more kind of, hey, we should have a social hour, or maybe we should sit down and we should all get together about this or the way that this is going to the office. But I do like to think that I often say to my staff that works with me or the people that work with me in the office, if you have any issues, please let me know. Send me an email, send me a text, like, let me know. And I think over the years, based on the criticism that I've received and or the way that I've grown or things that I did in the past that I was like, oh, wow, that wasn't really that nice. Or, oh, wow, I could have been better in that relationship. I've kind of grown to be like less of a micromanager, more of kind of like a you do you, let me know if you need me to kind of help, whatever I can do to assist you. But like for the most part, I'm going to let you hum along until you tell me something's going on. You know what I mean? And I think that autonomy that people get from that leadership style seems to be a little bit more open for communication. And it seems like people are investing in that a little bit more. Whereas before it was like people were afraid to say, oh my God, the washing machine broke. She's going to flip out. She doesn't have the time to do this. So I'm just not going to tell her. So then here I go and I'm like back to the washing machine and I'm like, what happened? Why didn't somebody tell me? I need to get somebody to fix this.
Mm-hmm. So this is something that I've seen so I work with massage therapists, with chiropractors, with dentists, some other medical fields before, and there's a very common trend of you go to blank school to learn blank. You go to massage school, learn massage, chiropractic school, learn chiropractic. You kind of are forced to learn most of the other things. Where did your business acumen come from, or how have you developed your business skills?
So as trite as it may seem, my dad was a turnaround guy. So he would get called into a company that wasn't successful within his field, and he would normally come in as a CEO and turn it around and then make an exit. And so for very many years, he was very successful at this. And my dad's my hero, right? So when I went into business and I started having to like manage people and I wanted to grow my business acumen and my desire for entrepreneurship or my entrepreneurial spirit kind of stemmed from my upbringing. My parents, and I think this is like a very, maybe not all children can be raised in this environment, but my brother and I were always like, work hard, do well, and you'll be successful. There'll be rewards at the end. If you work really hard and you generate good grades and you get a nice job, like there will be rewards at the end. We were kind of raised in a lifestyle where it was like, work hard so that you can play hard, right? And so that kind of bred a bit of like an Enneagram 3, which is goal getter, very oriented. I make my goals, I hit my goals, and then I set more goals. Like I don't even like wallow in the like sun about, oh yeah, I hit that goal. I'm already on to the next thing. Soaring, ready to get whatever it is that I have my goal set on next. And so as I'm growing my business, in times of tribulation or times of where I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. Like I have different goals. My first goal was like growth. And then my second goal was like, but where's the money? So generate more income and then come up. Now my goal has kind of changed where it's like generate an income. And I love what I do, but I also need to think about my future. I can't do this forever. It's manual work. It's hard, especially when you're in your business and you're the trade in your business. It's very hard because your commodity is your time, right? And so how much time do you have to give up? How much time do you have in which you can actually generate that income? So it doesn't extend beyond your time, right? So I look to my dad and I say, well, Dad, how do you think I could maybe not work as hard, but generate more income? And so I always kind of go back to him and run some ideas that I have for like diversity within my office in terms of, bringing in a new therapy. Is that therapy going to generate me money? How many visits with that piece or that device is it going to take me in order to make my money back and then make more money? So he makes me critically think about those kinds of things. Is this investment worth it? If I'm buying something or I'm doing something like painting my office, it's not that I'm going to make money back from painting my office, right? It's that patients walk in and they see clean walls. They're not looking at my walls and going, ooh, this looks a little shanty shack in here, because that subconscious, that one little tear in a table furniture, people are like, why didn't the doctor fix that? Why does that look like that? I run a lot of the ideas by him. And because he's done it for so long and he's done it on such a larger scale than myself, he gives me really great advice. I would have to say that the best piece of advice he's ever given me, the best thing that he has ever bestowed upon me was make sure you know how to do everything in your office, down to like ordering staples, to keeping your books, to watching your P&Ls, to front desk reception, answering phones. Because like in that way, when something gets missed or something, isn't working right, you know how to fix it. Or God forbid, somebody can't make it to the office. You could sit at the front desk, So that was probably one of the best pieces of advice that he's ever given me. But he is definitely who has taught me how to be like the business or entrepreneur that I am today.
And as the business has grown and you look back, what would you say has been part of your recipe for success, or at least maybe a few essential ingredients in your recipe for success?
Letting go of control. You can't micromanage because otherwise you get stuck. So like trusting that people who you employing to do the job that they're doing are going to do it and not micromanage them past their learning curve. So like obviously you have to like teach somebody how to do the job, right? Because they're stepping into a position that they've never done before and you want it done a certain way. So you have to teach them the job. But after you teach them the job, like let them soar, let them do their thing. You can't stay in the process of like micromanaging, because if you have your face like so in their book and so in their business, you're distracted. You can't do what your job is to do. And there's no growth there when you're doing more than one person's job. Periods of creativity are always stifled by stress. And it's too stressful to like micromanage 900 people. There's no forward progress. So letting go and trusting that people are going to do what they're there to do, and that maybe your way is not as efficient and or healthy for another individual. So again, getting out of that micromanagement, like I can make a recommendation. Hey, I really want this done this way, and this is why I want it done. And there are times where my staff is like, that doesn't really seem like it works for me. Well, explain to me why it doesn't work for you. And you know what? You are 100% right. I never saw that before. Do it your way. Be happy. Do it your way. And also, like I said, giving people the opportunity to feel like, hey, my opinion matters. I'm not just coming to work and like a little drone and doing whatever Dr. Shara orders me to do. I have the license for some creativity. I have the license to be able to give her a suggestion or a recommendation. And, she takes that and she values that. And either she implements it or, she explains to me why she doesn't think that that's going to work. So like letting go of the micromanagement and inspiring people to be creative, your team to be creative for you and with you, not so much under you.
So this has been a fantastic conversation. I've got just a few short questions. They don't need to have short answers. My first one, what's your current obsession? The thing you either can't stop thinking about, spend all your time doing, or just want to tell other people about?
Well, I like shiny things. So I just invested in a new piece of equipment for my office. So I bought a decompression table and I'm like kind of obsessed with it. So I'm obsessed with making the marketing material that I'm going to like hand out to show people what it's about. I'm obsessed with getting people on the table. I'm obsessed. I think about this table night and day. It's so cool. So that's kind of my biggest obsession right now is just helping people with disc pain, neck pain, low back pain. And then some very like microcosmy, like for me, that's my excitement that I'm pretty excited about. And also, I guess my kids are at camp for 3.5 weeks. So I'm like, this is pretty exciting. I'm kind of like double income, no kids for 3.5 weeks. So that's pretty obsessive. Like I'm back to like when we first got married, let's hang out every night. Oh, it's Tuesday. Let's go out to dinner. Let's do something fun, because we don't have to worry about who's going to watch the kids. Right. And that's kind of like short term, they'll be back in 3.5 weeks and I do miss them. It is bittersweet, but it is nice to be able to kind of like re-collaborate with my husband and like recalibrate, yeah, we are actual people outside of our children,
And when you think about your personal growth journey, your business journey, what's been a favorite resource of yours? It could be a book, a podcast, a course, a person, whatever, just something or someone that stands out as a favorite or really helpful.
Yeah. So I have a very particular strong interest in nutrition. I have a master's in nutrition that I got when I was in chiropractic school. And so I love to listen to like new nutrition podcasts and just like more kind of holistic, general based stuff. And I love Drew Pruitt. I don't know how you say his last name, but Pruitt, his podcast. He has some really interesting folks on there, ranging from like Ask the Dentist, Gabrielle Lyon, Mark Hyman. And they all talk about like food and or like breathing, stress reduction, and just general wellness topics. I find his podcast to be like, to me, pretty invaluable because it's just, there's so many nuggets of nutritional based, wellness based content that is so useful, not only for myself in daily life, but also to impart on my patients to assist them with some of their wellness issues.
We've covered so much during this conversation. Are there any final words of advice for our listeners?
I think that, owning a business is a process, right? And you have to be adaptable. You also have to not accept the concept of failure. It's never even crossed my mind that I would ever fail at anything. I just don't even acknowledge the concept of failure. So if I have to come at something with a specific direction and then I have to recalibrate and like adapt that perspective and attack it from another end, I will continue to, that's that Enneagram 3 in me, I will continue to like chew away at a problem from all different avenues and all different angles until I finally achieve that goal. Because to me, failure is not acceptable and I'm not even going to acknowledge it. And maybe that comes off a little harsh or, stress inducing to some, but personality that type that I have, it works perfectly for me. So it may not be for everybody to kind of think in that mindset. And the true Enneagram 3, we are actually probably one of the most pitiful signs because when we don't meet a goal, we become profoundly depressed. But I choose to not even, look that direction. Yeah, just keep after your dreams, attack it from all different avenues, keep at it. If you have an idea and something that you want to do, like go for it and don't accept failure. Just stand back, take a break and look at it from another angle and go for it again. Seek advice of people who are mentors who may have different eyes on the situation, but go for it. You've got this, you only get one life. So if this is what's going to make you happy, then make yourself happy.
Thank you again so much for sitting down and having this conversation. If someone wants to learn more about you, your practice, or get connected with you, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, my practice is probably our website, right? So that's justadjustit.com, kind of like a play on the Nike. So justadjustit.com. But if you want to know more about me, I know that it's always kind of like the more positive side of, or like the more kind of overview of all the highlight reel of Shara Posner. But on Instagram, it's Dr. Shara P, so DrShRAP, as well as on TikTok. On TikTok, I do a lot of kind of more of, informal, here's an exercise for, here's a treatment for. But on Instagram, you kind of get more of a feel of my personal life, my dog, my kids, my husband, my workouts, what I like to eat, what I don't like to eat. So it's a little bit more of the happy highlight reel so that you can actually get to know me. But if you contact me through any one of those avenues, I'm always open to a call or a conference.
So thank you again so much. And thanks everyone who's watching, listening, however it is you're consuming this content. That's all for this interview, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.
The Scaling Wellness Podcast is hosted and produced by yours truly, DJ Turner. Administration, guest research, editing, and associate production by Helen C. For highlights and updates, follow us on Instagram at Scaling Wellness. And for more information on how to scale your practice up and get out of the day-to-day, head to www.scalingwellness.com.